Hello, everyone. So there's some people not on the screen, obviously, just in the background, but and everyone can see who's here. The ones that are on the screen. There's two views, just to make sure everyone knows. If you want the Brady Bunch view, it's gallery view up the top right.
It's just so exciting, like it's just and so sort of legitimate and so valid that it's happening. You know, it's all got this unbelievable bedrock of logic and explanation and understanding, and so this transformation process is, because of all that, is completely legitimate and completely valid and completely needed, and just like it's so freedom giving, and there's nothing about it that is negative or illogical or not relevant or anything. It's completely the way that the whole human race will go to get round, you know, to initially cope and then thrive with this, with the full truth about ourselves. And it is all that because it allows us to live honestly with who we actually are. There's no pretense or falseness or anything about, you are living, you know, as a person 2 million years riddled with the human condition and all the alienation and egocentricity and denial and delusion and falseness and everything that goes with that. But that all just gets a huge big tick. It gets a huge sort of envelope of love and understanding placed around it, which completely frees you.
The explanation is just that legitimizes everything, but the good thing is the transformation. That's what everyone wants. That's what everyone needs. That's where we need to focus on more. And that's where Jeremy's video is coming in, and we've watched it together, so the three of us at least, and we talk, and I'm using it a lot to talk to Chris about it yesterday. We also talked about it last week, and so just the hill drawing, and that is actually just a assumed in version of the humanity's journey and everything. So to put it into perspective, but to also realize this one thing, that it doesn't work to take these new concepts and try to modify your old world with it and trying to improve yourself or whatever. You leave that all behind, and we're making this gesture all of the time. So, and there's this one sentence, and it's so true that's why we're always coming back to this. Whenever at one point you feel bad for something, you feel that something is worrying you, you can already know, okay, so it's not working now, not in the transform state, and then you can just take it and leave it behind. You can just put it behind you. So it's kind of you just have to do it mechanically in the beginning. So it's not coming naturally to you. You still have your old habits, your old thought patterns and everything. So you just have to mechanically say, I'm worrying about something. So good, I can leave it behind now. Because there's one question that's troubling everyone's minds, which is whether you're good or bad. This is this fundamental question, whether you know it or not, but it is, and you just put layers upon layers upon layers so you forget about it, which leads to you either distracting yourself or worrying about everything, which are the only two modes you could live in the old world. There's nothing else in the old world. You could just distract yourself and be relatively happy by being well distracted because you have a nice holiday or whatever, so you distract yourself really well, or you're worrying, but there's nothing else. And so it's really hard that's the hard thing with the transform state then, to just keep this new habit going. So that's why you have to mechanically do it, and just whenever there's something I'm worrying about, which is just normal because I'm just used to think bullshit all day long. So that's just because of this question, and I couldn't answer it, and it's the only question that everyone is concerned whether I'm good or bad. But this question is now answered. We have scientific proof that I'm good. So even if I don't believe it or maybe start worrying again, maybe it's no, I can just leave it behind. I can just put it behind every second of the day. And and this new insight that Jeremy was presenting in the video, this is what we're so excited about, that it's not something, and what this realization that comes from it, the transform state is not something to reach in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, but it's something you want to do right now and something you can do right now.
You know, that the information is what legitimizes the transform state, and that's what we focus on, and getting into that habit of just taking yourself there, leaving that behind, and taking yourself to this wonderful free world that we can definitely go to now. And as you said, it's unnecessary, and it's torturing yourself to stay in the old world, and it's also torturing the rest of the world. It's obscene now to keep doing that when we have this truth. But the thing is that once you start doing that and once you start practicing that, that's when it starts getting exciting, and that's when you start tapping into that that just how exciting the new world's going to be, and that momentum, the pull exactly, how that builds and builds and builds and builds.
It's an instantaneous realization. Like, you realize it straight away, holy shit, that works. But you gradually implemented it. Like, you gradually implement it, not worry or focus on yourself, your upset state, the billions of reasons to feel like a victim or a villain. And instead, you just enjoy feeling part of this incredible world transformation movement that is spreading the information to others, because understanding is all they ever wanted. And working on this project is because it saves the world and looks after everyone's future, including your own. And in the process, not only are you feeling important and responsible, but you are living as free of the human condition as was ever possible for anyone before. Learning how to not engage in a wrestle. This is the big one. Learning how to not engage in a wrestle, or how not to try to mesh your resigned state into the understanding-based, selfless, loving state, isn't done by thinking about it. It's done by not thinking about yourself anymore, which is what Connor was saying, and everyone's saying the same thing. You don't think about your resigned self anymore. It's like, and I sort of, in my head, visualized it as it's like developing a denial of the wrestling match, but instead you are developing a habituation or a habit to avoid the wrestling match by turning yourself around and walking away to a place where you are feeling and living in alignment with this information and part of the world transformation movement, and in the warmth of that real place within yourself. And you just stay there, and that's freedom. And so, anyway, and saving the world is what you're simply doing after that, without ego, but just pure humility, desire, and love for the human race.
I feel incredible. I feel like what you just described, Sal. And those last lot of updates, for me, the big kick up the bum was kind of, just with Bronnie's nieces and nephews and where things were at. And so I think that kind of kick up the bum was like, oh, shit, there's just people suffering, there's just stuff to do. And then that St. Paul at the front of the boat, that was a ripper. Like, that just, totally. I'm at the back. I don't want to be at the back. I'm at the front of the boat. And then I've only just had a chance to watch the transformation talk. We just finished it last night. Emil and I watched it together. And so you're just soaking this up. So I only just saw the whole hill picture as well. And I just feel like a powerhouse. So, I'm still busy. I'm still tired. We've still got 2 little people. So, that there's a lot of energy that goes there. But I'm like, it's just kind of all I think about, really. Besides keeping my children happy and alive as best I can.
I got a lot out of it. It's very informative. It's very descriptive. It's going to be the blueprint on how to get transformed going forth. And, Bron and Lee have done so well lending themselves to this video, because it's not the easiest to talk about your own egocentric state, you know what I mean? So, but that's part of one's own sort of transformational process. The things like, even during the video, how he talks about resignation and how, we never felt good about, when we reach adolescence and there's that, I don't feel good about myself, I don't feel good about the world out there, and we didn't have that bridging understanding, and post-resignation, we've just been on this, hell-bent mission to validate ourselves. The validation never ended. It just kept on going. And how that leads to our resigned, egocentric self, and it blocks out any ability to see, the beauty of the transformed state, the radiancy of it. You know what I mean? Like, I've read about it, and I understood the information. It was logical, and you're sort of getting that that no man's land, that Mexican standoff. And, being egocentric. You sort of, you pride yourself in being logical and rational, and now, it wasn't until sort of a meeting last year with Tone and Mon where, they were basically saying, well, you agree with it, Frank. So, the next sensible thing is, to take the change of heart and, adopt the transformed state. And you'll be surprised after a few meetings, some people have found it transforming. And I just sort of scoffed at that. I thought, yeah, whatever, mate, don't see it happening with me. But, and then sure enough, bang on the third one, it happened. And, sort of life hasn't been the same since. And it's been a pretty awesome experience. It's like being on a bit of a wave of momentum there, because the transformed state it's a forward-thinking mentality, and it's sort of outward in its sort of trajectory, and it's future-orientated.
And then all of a sudden, the human condition's been solved. The resigned state, we can go, it's like, I was just thinking about, it's like shedding dead grey skin. Like it just falls off you, and you can walk away from it and put on new skin that's just glowing, and just you're just living in a completely free state, and your mind is free because you know that you don't have to wrestle. You don't have, like, I love what you said. I think it was yourself or Connor or someone. Everyone's been saying very similar versions of the same thing. Like, you just don't have to worry anymore about yourself.
It's just beautiful. It's the logic of it is just absolutely stunning, and it does lead you to that excitement, because you can see your mind can actually understand how you can leave all that behind, and you want to, because it makes sense to, and it's just as simple as that.
It's fine to be in that, but ultimately what we're talking about here, and why we have these meetings and why we talk about all this stuff all the time, is because as resigned, upset, hurt humans, we move on from that. And this transformed life force state is the vehicle, that the unbelievable vehicle that we get to do that. I mean, it's, yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to say that. If
you imagine, a totally innocent child just sort of lying in a bassinet or something and on its own and looking outside, and it's just there in the day, and there's trees in the sky, and it's looking through the world. That human is looking through the world just through 100% totally innocent eyes, and all of us have actually been at that point. And then, so everything is just amazing. And you watch babies, young children, when they look at things, just their sense of utter amazement at a simple thing like a butterfly flies past, or it starts raining or something, and how that all the senses are totally engaged in that, in everything that's going on around them. They just completely sort of absorbed by the whole thing that's happening, and wide-eyed, totally. And you imagine that they're looking through the world through those eyes, and then someone just rolls down a movie screen in front of their face, and blocks out the view and just fills it with this, I was going to say horror movie, but the resigned world is a horror movie. Well, there's nothing about it that isn't horrific. The smallest thing that happens to a child, the smallest feeling of being ignored, or the smallest feeling of being sort of not paying any attention, or not, or just, it's, I suppose in general, just not receiving enough love. And the effect that has, and the build-up of that over time, of all the other horrors, turn on the television, walk outside, see the way adults behave, and ultimately just see selfishness and the effect that has on those young, innocent eyes, and that brain that's being affected by that. And then you imagine that this information just comes along and completely melts that screen. It just completely disappears. And all of a sudden you can see what you naturally could see when you were young. And that's why it's real. It's so real, it's not funny. Like, it's not about convincing ourselves to leave something that's, one thing, or, I don't even think there's any push or pull involved. It's just a simple case of this is real, and everything that we've experienced in our lives because of the human condition is not. Now, of course, the effects are, and of course, that sounds a bit silly on one level, but this reality is what is going to carry humanity forward, nothing else. And that's what, anyway, that's all I see with this. I just thought it was such a good thing that Jeremy spoke about there, about that, the Eckhart Tolle and all those guys that just are polluting this whole area with complete bullshit from start to finish. There's nothing real about it. It just makes you want to throw up. It's bile, the whole thing. But the beauty that this allows, and like Weavy or someone said before, being able to get out of that pee, be able to get out of your matchbox and just see the world again, the way that we all intuitively know it should be, is such a gift. And all we have to do is accept that that is real and it's happening right, it's happened and it's right now. And it's just there, available. Walk over the hill, go over the ridge and never come back.
Bye.
Yoo-hoo!
Bye, Althea.
You don't quit yet.